Canada, a beautiful country, a democracy where we elect our leaders to stand on guard for thee, right? Well, you need to see this German guy saying Canada's leaders are dupes of the World Economic Forum.
Names like Mrs. Merkel, even Vladimir Putin and so on, they all have been young global leaders of the World Economic Forum. But what we are very proud of now is the young generation, like Prime Minister Trudeau, President of Argentina and so on, is that we penetrate the cabinets. Today I was at a reception for Prime Minister Trudeau, and I know that half of this cabinet, or even more half of this cabinet, are actually young global leaders of the World Economic Forum.
That's true in Argentina as well.
It's true in Argentina, and it's true in France now.
Would Klaus lie? We need to see the WEF website to find Chrystia Freeland, our finance minister and deputy prime minister, is on the board of trustees of the WEF. Shouldn't that be illegal? That's a conflict of interest, because now government departments might make deals with the WEF or enact policies that are good for the WEF, but maybe not for Canada. So what other cabinet ministers are for Schwab? We need to see what happens when Colin Carey asks the question in Parliament.
Honourable member for Oshawa.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I listened to my colleague's speech. I had a constituent that wanted me to ask a question about outside interference to our democracy. Klaus Schwab is the head of the World Economic Forum, and he bragged how his subversive WEF, World Economic Forum, has, quoted, infiltrated governments around the world. He said that his organization had penetrated more than half of Canada's cabinet. And I was wondering, in the interest of transparency, could the member please name which cabinet ministers are on board with the WEF's agenda? My concern is the deputy.
Order. I know that the member was in a really good question there, but the audio is really bad and the video is really bad as well. And I apologize. I don't know if the member. Okay, let's try again. The honourable member for Timmins James Bay.
Mr. Speaker, that member was promoting open disinformation. That's not debate. We have to call out disinformation.
We'll get into debate again.
So we don't get an answer, but for laughs you can replay the clip to see the change in body language as soon as Schwab is named, and how the speaker looks down when he lies about the audio. The worst part is how Canada's national broadcaster reports the story. The CBC branded Colin Carey a conspiracy theorist just for asking the question about the clip you and I just saw with our own eyes. They further gaslight Canadians by giving a WEF official a platform to smear critics of the WEF, while not even giving Colin Carey an opportunity to respond. They're shameful propaganda. Let me know what you think of the CBC in the comments. Next up, Klaus Schwab wrote The Great Reset, so you have to see Trudeau pledge allegiance.
This pandemic has provided an opportunity for a reset.
So if you don't know about the book, the clip makes no sense. Trudeau had a majority from 2015 to 2019. He had the opportunity to reset any policy he wanted. But the book gives clues. The crisis cannot go to waste. The Great Reset policies are so radical, and nobody would agree in 2019. But Schwab figures once people are united to fight the disease, they'll move on to the next current thing, climate change. He praised Europe for using the panic to push the Green Deal. Central to the reset is Schwab's concept of degrowth, the equitable downsizing of the economy, leading to a future where we can live better with less. To be clear, they will be living better, while we will live with less. Trudeau isn't living with less, with Canada's largest carbon footprint. It was staying in $6,000 a night hotels. The Governor General isn't living with less. MPs got 4 pay hikes since the pandemic. And as for Schwab, people go to his meetings in private jets. And his WEF website celebrated when this rich lady emitted 300 tons of greenhouse gases in a space tourism flight. Now we need to see the chart of government debt. It's bad enough the debt increased $500 billion since the pandemic, and the interest rates on those debts just tripled. But now the plan is to spend huge amounts on climate change, while at the same time shrinking the economy of reducing the number of people working and the profits that can be taxed. Eventually, something has to break. Canadians need to see what happened in Sri Lanka. Oh, why Sri Lanka? Because Trudeau was following their farm policy that bankrupted the country. A former president, Rajapaksa, was a big follower of World Economic Forum policies. OF gave him an ESG score of 98% when he banned chemical fertilizers. Food production plunged. They couldn't feed themselves, so they had to pay to import food until they ran out of money and declared bankruptcy. Only foreign aid from India and China kept the people from dying of starvation. And Trudeau was introducing a similar policy in Canada, which will cost Canadian farmers an estimated $48 billion in earnings by 2030. Productive workers will lose their jobs and go bankrupt, and the government will lose all the tax revenue from lost farm production, money that's desperately needed to pay our bills and fund pensions and social programs. Welcome to degrowth, World Economic Forum style. And it doesn't even help the environment. If we cut food production in Canada, somewhere else in the world, someone will have to rip down more rainforests to make up the difference. Not everyone loses. The WEF hit the jackpot with a $105 million contract with the federal government. Wow, I wonder how. It's a pilot project, so $105 million could be just the starting point. The contract is for digital ID, which is on WEF's Christmas list, as they're big fans of government surveillance, tracking systems, and medical passports. But even if you don't have 1984-style privacy fears, the deal is very fishy. WEF is a think tank of economists, and not a software firm. They don't have the skills to deliver the product. The deal resembles the We Charity scandal, where the old finance minister awarded a lucrative contract to a group that had financial ties to the minister and Trudeau's family, but had no experience running such a contract. And as with the We scandal, the contract was awarded without competitive bids, so no Canadian company was allowed to undercut WEF's price for the digital ID. And to top it off, the government tried to keep the contract secret, labeling people as conspiracy theorists, until opposition MP Leslyn Lewis finally dug up the receipts. WEF is like a social club for greedy rich guys. The CEO of multinational Moderna whined at a WEF meeting that nobody wants to buy their medication. It's 100% effective, 100% safe, but he can't even give it away, so he'll have to throw out 30 million doses. Shame, but that doesn't stop Trudeau from funding a factory in Montreal where Moderna can make more. It doesn't matter that Moderna made huge profits from Canada during the pandemic, is currently worth $48 billion and doesn't need the subsidy. The important thing is that Trudeau gets to help out his WEF buddy. What a team player! And meanwhile, a Canadian company with no WEF links can't get any funding to produce its own 100% effective drugs. Any pet project of the WEF has become a pet project for Trudeau. For years, WEF has promoted eating insects rather than beef, so Trudeau spends millions on a cricket farm. Now, I enjoy a cricket burger as much as the next Canadian. I just don't think your tax money should pay for it. For years, WEF has been promoting central bank digital currencies. It's an electronic bank account and payment system that has no advantage over your current bank account and credit cards, but makes it easy for the government to track all the money you spend, who you donate money to, or they might even be able to calculate your carbon footprint based on your purchases. Trudeau is naturally interested in the CBDC, because it'll make it easier for him to freeze political opponents. The Bank of Canada has recently done a survey on CBDC. Oh, I love this line. At this time, a digital Canadian dollar is not needed, and any decision to issue one rests with the Parliament and the Government of Canada. So even if the survey shows Canadians hate it, we can still get it. Hopefully the idea dies, but keep an eye on it. The Great Reset calls for leaders to start huge infrastructure projects for green energy. So Trudeau complied with a Canadian record $13 billion corporate subsidy to Volkswagen for batteries for electric cars. The deal was so outrageous that a company already building a battery factory demanded a similar deal. The choice of Volkswagen was bizarre, since they'll only build batteries in Canada, not the rest of the car. And it wasn't long ago that Volkswagen was caught installing devices that produced fake readings on emissions tests in 11 million cars, and making highly polluting cars seem clean to consumers. The company paid $33 billion US in fines and compensation. And some execs went to jail, this guy for 7 years, And now Canada's rewarding this company with $13 billion.
What?
Most Canadians are too young to remember when David Lewis was leader of the New Democratic Party. He wrote a book about the corporate welfare bums. You could read it online for free. So why is the NDP now allowing these massive corporate handouts? Well, it turns out the MP we saw earlier defending Klaus Schwab was Charlie Angus of the NDP. And the current NDP leader, Jagmeet Singh, is a member of the WAF, Young Global Leaders Class of 2018. Oh, we are so screwed. Penetrated. I reviewed The Great Reset in my video, Is This Guy's Book the Trashiest of the Century? I cover Schwab's sequel in the video, What is Stakeholder Capitalism? As well as top 10 Great Reset quotes. And for laughs, Davros versus Davos Man. Enjoy.